You ever been somewhere that just feels wrong? Not haunted, not exactly, but off. Like the air is watching you, and the silence hums under your skin. My name's Aaron Gray. I'm a park ranger in Black Hollow National Park, Maine. Quiet. Job, quiet woods, a couple of trails, a few campers, and a lake where kids fish in the summer. Nothing special, except for one area. Locals call it the North Woods. It's on the map, technically, marked as a restricted conservation zone. But there are no trails leading in or out. No one hikes there. No one wants to. They say the forest there doesn't want people walking through it. I first heard about the looping trail from an old tracker named John Miller. He said if you walk far enough into the North Woods, you'll start circling back without realizing it. Your compass spins, your GPS dies, and the sound of your own steps starts to echo wrong. I laughed at him back then, but that was before the night I had to go in myself. It was late October, cold, damp, fog creeping low over the ground. A hiker named Robert Hayes, 42, had gone missing. His car was found at the north lot, his footprints heading into restricted territory. I grabbed my gear, flashlight, compass, map, and followed. At first it was normal enough. Pine needles underfoot, damp earth, the smell of moss and rain. But after about 2 hours, I realized the forest had changed. It was too quiet. No wind, no birds, just my own footsteps. Then I saw it. A narrow trail cutting through the trees. Clean, straight, unnaturally smooth. The brush along the edges looked trimmed, like someone had carved the path by hand. But on my map, there was nothing. No trail. No marker. Still, I thought maybe Hayes had wandered that way. So I followed. The deeper I went, the more I noticed something strange. The trees looked familiar. Too familiar. A split oak. A fallen birch. A stump with a patch of moss on the right side. I marked them with my knife, 3 notches. Half an hour later, I passed the same marks again. My compass spun like crazy. The map might as well have been blank. And that's when I heard footsteps. At first, faint. Then closer. Slow. Measured. Matching mine exactly. I stopped. So did they. I took a step. Another step followed. I called out, "Robert, Park Service. You out here?" No answer. Only the echo of my own voice. Quick, too quick. As if it bounced back from right behind me. I kept moving, pretending I wasn't scared. The air felt heavier, colder. Then, up ahead, a flicker of light. A flashlight beam, weaving between the trees. "Robert!" I shouted. "Hold still, I see you!" No response. Then, my own voice echoed back. Perfectly timed, same tone, same words. "Robert! Hold still, I see you!" The light stopped, and standing there, maybe 30 feet away, was a man. Same jacket. Same flashlight. Same everything. Except it was me. He didn't move. Didn't speak. Just lifted his flashlight and aimed it right at my face. For a moment I thought it was a trick, a reflection, a hallucination, but then I saw his eyes. Empty. Not hollow. Empty, like someone had carved out whatever belonged there. He tilted his head, exactly like I do when I'm confused. And then he said, in my voice, "You weren't supposed to come here." My flashlight flickered. The sound of the forest died completely. The air thickened, pressing against my chest like water. And then I heard it. Breathing. Right behind me. Slow. Steady. Too close. I turned. Nothing. Just darkness, and the faint outline of the trail stretching ahead. I don't remember how I got out. When I came to, it was dawn. I was lying by the parking lot, my clothes muddy, my boots soaked. My radio was crackling with static. They'd been searching for me all night. When I told my supervisor what happened, he just shook his head. Said the story about the double in the forest had been around forever. that his grandfather used to say, "If you meet yourself in the North Woods, turn around, because only one of you gets to leave." A week later, another ranger went missing. They found him alive, 2 miles off the main trail. Delirious, frostbitten, and repeating one thing over and over. I was following myself. I thought it was help, but it was me. Sometimes I still patrol near the North Woods. I never go in, but when I stand at the tree line, I can see movement in the distance. A faint light drifting between the trunks. Sometimes I swear it moves the way I do. Same rhythm, same steps. And I always wonder, did I ever really make it out? Or is the other me still walking that trail, waiting for me to come back? Locals say if you ever find a path in Black Hollow that isn't on the map, don't take it, no matter how inviting it looks, because if you do, you'll start hearing footsteps, perfectly in sync with yours. And if you stop walking, the thing following you won't. They say the forest remembers what you burn. That's what my grandmother used to tell me when I was a kid. Back when we lived on the edge of Hollow Creek, a small logging town in northern Washington. Most people thought the woods here were just woods, tall pines, quiet creeks, endless fog. But I always felt something different about them. Something alive, not in the good way. When I was 12, there was a fire. A big one. It tore through the western ridge one dry August night, burning homes, trees, everything. Fire crews said it started from a lightning strike, but locals whispered a different story. They said a logger named Thomas Crane had gone mad and burned down his own cabin. Said he walked into the woods afterward, covered in soot, laughing. And when they found the remains of his house, there was no body, just a trail of footprints leading into the blackened forest. After that, people started calling him the Ash Man. Fast forward 15 years. I'd moved back to Hollow Creek after my dad passed away, to sell his house and deal with what was left of his things. I was 30 now, working in Seattle. Not exactly the woods type anymore. But one evening, as I was packing up, I found something strange in the shed. A map, old and water-stained, with one spot circled in red. It was labeled Sea Ridge Crane. Curiosity got the better of me. The next morning, I grabbed my dad's flashlight, an old hunting knife, and my phone. I figured I'd hike out there. One last look at the woods before I left for good. It took about an hour to reach the ridge. The forest there was different. The ground was dark and brittle, the air heavy with that dry, burnt smell that never really goes away. No birds, no wind, just stillness. Then I saw it. The foundation of an old cabin, half sunk into the dirt, its stones blackened and cracked. And right in the middle, buried in ash, was a chimney, still standing. Around it, something that looked like footprints, not fresh but deep, almost human. And then I noticed the trees. Every single one of them had been carved with the same shape. A circle with a line running through it, like an eye that had been struck out. I took a few photos. Then the smell hit me. Not smoke, burnt hair. Thick, sour, unmistakable. I turned around, and for a split second I saw someone standing between the trees. Tall, thin, gray from head to toe. I blinked and the shape was gone. My first thought was, ashes, like someone covered in them. I tried to shake it off, told myself it was shadows or nerves. But as I started heading back down the trail, I noticed something even worse. My footprints were gone. The ground behind me was perfectly smooth, undisturbed, as if I'd never walked that way at all. And ahead, in the direction I was going, I saw a single set of footprints leading forward, deeper into the forest, not mine. The air got heavier, the light dimmed. Everything smelled like burnt wood and old smoke. Then I heard it, a sound like someone dragging a shovel across gravel. Slow, heavy, getting closer. "Hello?" I called out, forcing my voice not to shake. Something moved just beyond the tree line, and the ash on the ground began to shift, like it was being stirred by footsteps. Then I saw him. The Ash Man. He wasn't a ghost, not the way you'd think. He looked real but wrong. His skin was blackened and cracked, like wood after a fire. Smoke drifted from his shoulders. His eyes, if they were eyes, glowed faintly orange, like coals that refused to die. And when he opened his mouth, ash spilled out, slow, like sand through fingers. I stumbled back, tripping over roots, trying to keep my flashlight steady. He didn't move fast, just walked, slow and steady, each step leaving no print behind. Then he spoke. His voice sounded dry, like air forced through a dying fire. "You shouldn't have come here." I turned and ran. Branches tore at my clothes, the light from my flashlight bouncing wildly. I didn't look back, not once, but I could hear him. That dragging sound, that slow, patient walking. When I burst out of the trees, the sun had already dipped low. I collapsed on the dirt road by my car, gasping, shaking, covered in soot. And right there, in the fading light, I saw footprints leading from the trees to the edge of the road. Then they stopped. Like whoever made them had simply vanished. That night I checked my phone. Every photo I'd taken, gone. Except one. It showed the foundation of the cabin. The chimney, and standing just behind it, half faded in the smoke. A tall gray figure watching me. I left Hollow Creek the next morning. Never went back. But sometimes, when I drive through fog or smell smoke on a still night, I see him in the corner of my headlights, just standing by the trees, waiting. They say the forest remembers what you burn. But maybe it remembers who you burn too. And maybe, if you listen closely enough, you can still hear him moving through the ashes, slow, patient, and never far behind. You learn a lot about fear when you spend time in the woods. Not movie fear, not the kind with monsters or ghosts, but the quiet, patient kind. The kind that waits until you realize you're completely alone, miles from anyone who could help you. My name's Daniel Ward, and 3 years ago, I went camping with 2 friends, John and Kyle. We'd been planning it for months. A week in the backcountry of Oregon's Whispering Pines forest. No phones, no signals, just us and the wilderness. We thought we were prepared. We weren't. The first 2 days were fine. We fished, cooked, drank cheap beer by the fire. But by the 3rd day, the fog rolled in. Thick, heavy, swallowing sound. That's when Kyle spotted it. About half a mile from our campsite, hidden behind a curtain of dead spruce trees, stood a cabin, old gray, no smoke, no sound. But what was weird, there were no tracks leading to it. No path, no road, no footprints, just the cabin, sitting there like it had grown out of the ground. We figured it had to be a ranger's shelter or some forgotten hunting shack. We joked about checking it out at night, Blair Witch style. Kyle laughed. John didn't. Around sunset, the fog thickened even more. We sat by the fire telling stories, when we heard 3 knocks, slow, deliberate, coming from somewhere beyond the trees. John froze. Kyle yelled, "Probably an animal," and threw a rock into the dark. Nothing moved. We listened. Silence. Just the crackle of the fire. The next morning, when we woke up, there was a pile of stones just outside our camp. 6 small rocks, stacked perfectly into a tiny pyramid. Kyle swore he hadn't done it. John was pale and quiet. I tried to laugh it off. Kids, maybe, or some weird forest prank. But there were no footprints. Not ours, not anyone else's. Just the rocks. That night, the knocking came again. 5 knocks this time. Then silence. I grabbed a flashlight and shouted into the fog, "Who's out there?" No response. Only the sound of my voice fading too fast, as if the fog swallowed it whole. When I turned back toward the tent, I saw something new. 2 piles of rocks this time, perfectly aligned. John wanted to leave in the morning. Kyle argued, said we were being paranoid. We stayed. That was mistake number 1. On the 3rd night, I couldn't sleep. Something about the forest felt wrong. The air was too still, too thick. Even the fire burned quiet, no crackling, no sparks, just orange light trembling in the mist. Then the knocking came again. 9 knocks, precise, evenly spaced. And this time, it sounded closer, from the direction of the cabin. Kyle stood up. "That's it. I'm finding out who the hell's doing this." He grabbed his flashlight and started walking toward the sound. John tried to stop him, but Kyle was already gone. The fog swallowed his light almost instantly. We called his name for an hour. No answer. When dawn came, the fog lifted. No sign of Kyle. No footprints, no broken branches, nothing. But between our tents, someone had built 3 stone piles, each exactly the same height, each perfectly balanced. John broke down. He wanted to hike out, but our GPS wouldn't turn on. The screen was frozen, battery full. My compass needle spun in circles. We decided to head toward the road anyway, following what we thought was the right direction. After hours of walking, the trees started to look familiar. Too familiar, and then I saw it, the cabin, standing exactly where it had been. But this time there were footprints in the dirt. Ours, leading straight to the door. The door was slightly open. Inside it was dark and cold, dust everywhere, thick enough to choke on. But on the floor, under a layer of dirt, I saw something that made my stomach twist. Piles of stones, dozens of them, some small, some large, all perfectly balanced. John whispered, "Kyle?" And then we heard it, a sound coming from the corner of the room. Someone was breathing, slow, shallow. I lifted my flashlight and saw a man crouched against the wall. Only it wasn't Kyle. It wasn't anyone I knew. His skin was pale and cracked like old bark. His hair was gray and matted, his eyes wide, glassy, unfocused. He looked at us and smiled. And then, in a voice that didn't sound like his own, he said, "You stayed 3 nights. That's all it takes." The next thing I remember is running. Branches slapping my face, lungs burning, John screaming behind me. I don't know how long I ran. When I finally collapsed near the trailhead, I was alone. No John, no sound. Just wind. When rescue came 2 days later, they found me dehydrated and in shock. They never found John or Kyle. Search teams combed the area for weeks. Nothing. But one ranger told me something that still haunts me. He said they found a clearing near an old burned foundation. No cabin, just ashes. And in the ashes were 3 perfect stacks of stones. I don't camp anymore. Can't. Every time I hear tapping, even rain on a window, I freeze. Because the knocks weren't random. They were counting something. And sometimes when I close my eyes, I can still hear that voice from the cabin. Low, calm, patient. 3 nights. That's all it takes.